Thanks for joining me today at Learnwake. My name is Brandon Judd, and today I'm going to be working on a tantrum request here um, by Ciprian. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing here. So this was submitted via our analysis request section, and this is really a good video for us to watch. You gave us a bunch of different attempts, specifically on that trick, and then a few related things. So this is really great. Um, like a really good example of a request. Also, it looks like here in your submission, you said, "Hey guys, I have already 2 years since I struggled to land this trick, Tantrum. My first trick that I landed was toe side back roll, which you included a video clip of. And after that, heel side back roll, which you also included another clip of. I've never met great difficulties with these two tricks. With this tantrum, seems I have some issues on the landing. Can you see in all the videos I make a 180-degree rotation at the end, and I don't know why this happens. I think I tried it at least 60 times, and every time I try it, the same problem on the landing. It's very frustrating. I hope to see where I'm wrong and tell me what I should do to land this trick. P.S. On the trampoline, I have no problem with this trick. Thank you. So again, thanks a ton for this. Uh, this part specifically, the on the trampoline, I have no problem with this trick. These are great things to let us know for others of you who are tuning in now. Uh, Thank you for uploading this and telling us what prerequisites you already have dialed. So this basically has me avoid telling you certain things that would be just a waste of breath since you already have this dialed. But it also gives me some ideas of where your head's at and kind of what you're thinking so that I can better diagnose the problem and better give you some new suggestions on ways to improve it. So on this, let's just talk about some of the things you mentioned and then we'll go to the video. The first thing is this 180-degree rotation at the end. This is really common. This happens often when people rely on the rope too much. They'll pull on the rope a little bit because they feel like when they're upside down, maybe they're a little uncomfortable, and so they'll pull on the rope a little bit. And what that does is when you pull on the rope, it brings it across your body, and forces you to spin 180-degree rotation. The other thing that could be happening, and we'll confirm this in the video, is that you're kind of peeking over one shoulder when you flip, and that'll cause you to turn your head, which results in your shoulders turning, followed by your hips, and then your board. So this is very common, and we can work through that. That's not a problem. Also, on your toe side back roll and your heel side back roll, and you didn't have a lot of problems with those tricks. I looked at those tricks on that video and they look really good. Looks like you have great fundamentals there. The main difference between toe side and heel side back rolls and tantrums are that the board accelerates through the wake on both of these with a nice solid progressive edge, which it looks like you're good at loading the line and really using your line tension to your advantage on both of these tricks. The tantrum's the complete opposite here. With the tantrum, you actually trip the board. The board stops and doesn't accelerate through the wake. It sort of rebounds off the wake, which is the opposite direction. So it's not uncommon for someone who's really naturally good at back roll based tricks to be really uncomfortable with their tantrum. That's not common. It also goes the other way. People who naturally do tantrums really well have a hard time with some of the back roll stuff. And that's totally normal, so don't get too down on yourself. That's something that we can work through and helps me a lot when I'm giving you advice on this. So I do appreciate that as well. Another thing, I think I've tried this at least 60 times. Okay, so this is just a piece of advice for all of the times that you're working uh, on a new trick. So repetition is key to a lot of your ingrained, natural, instinctive muscle memory. The reason that it's important to know this is because if you've done this over 60 times, you're actually ingraining the wrong problem into your muscle memory. So I would suggest if it goes wrong 5 or 6 times in a row and it's the same thing that's going wrong, we got to stop and rework it fundamentally. I don't want you to just keep repeating that because right now we're going to have a harder time now. If you'd stopped it 6 or 7 times, it would be easier to fix that problem than it would be 60 times later. So I'll just give a basketball analogy if you're familiar with basketball at all. If you were to practice your free throws and shoot a basketball 10 times from the free throw line, uh, if you were to shoot it 10 times and you were to miss 9 times and make it one time and then walk away, uh, you would have a 90% chance of repeating the wrong one just based on muscle memory alone. Cognitively, you may be able to just try and will yourself into making it because you remember what the one good time felt like. So it may be that you have a better chance of making it after that because you've practiced. But if we're talking muscle memory only and eliminating the side of the mental side where you're trying to force yourself to do it how you remember it that one way, if you were to have kind of just like a brain fart or something like that where you just kind of blank, your mind goes blank and you just do how you've always done it, you have a 90% chance of repeating the wrong way. So what we want to do is we want to try and eliminate the wrong times that you practice it and encourage the correct times that you practice it. So even if it means you don't do the entire trick and you're just practicing like backside reentries, for example. So I'm not saying don't try tricks if you're not going to land them. What I'm saying is if you have the same problem happening over and over and over, uh, after 5 or 6 tries, just stop, take a break, and approach it a different way. Everyone gets hung up on that, especially when you're really committed to landing that trick. You'll just try it the wrong way so many times in a row. So anyway, sorry for that long discourse there. It's just really important moving forward for you to keep that in mind. I'll stop myself when I'm trying a new trick if I keep repeating the same problem, and I'll try and rework it and maybe approach it differently. So, um, and then on the trampoline, I have no problem with this trick. This is great. So on the trampoline, do you have a backflip with a front side 180 and a backflip with a backside 180 really comfortable in all directions, holding the handle in your hand in with your front hand and then also with your back hand doing it switch essentially. If you can do backflips on the trampoline with a 180 and even a 360 in both directions with and without the rope, you're way ahead on this. If you can only do a backflip but you can't do the backflip 180s, then it may be why this 180-degree rotation is so hard for you to diagnose. You should be able to do it on the trampoline uh, with and without 180s in both directions, so that if you do unintentionally pull on the rope and turn 180 degrees in the wrong direction, you know how to correct it because you know what that feels like. You can feel it coming on because you practiced it on the trampoline. I hope that makes sense. Um, so let's move on to the video. I know it was a real long explanation, but hopefully that will set you up foundationally correct here, as it looked like you put a lot of effort into your submission, and I want to make sure that you got everything that you needed out of that. So looking at these two tricks, your toe side back roll and your heel side back roll, just really quick for our audience who also can do back roll tricks but not tantrum tricks. Um, those are pretty good. I like the little leg push. This could have been a little better as far as you case the wake. You could prevent casing the wake right here. You really flattened off and let off your edge just a little too much. Had you stayed edging just for a little longer um, and then stood nice and tall into it, you wouldn't land here. You would land more at the bottom of the wake. But again, that's just a small critique. You'll get that eventually. I wouldn't sweat it. But it looks good. Like I really like that leg push you give it. That sets you up really good for like an indie toe side back roll. All right, heel side back roll as well. Looks like you're really comfortable with this. Again, casing the wake just comes from flattening off a little bit too much before the wake. You want to just kind of progressively build up a little more at the bottom of the wake instead of flattening off and trying to push so much. So, but that, again, that looks good. But those do look like they come naturally to you. So on the back roll, the board naturally gets thrown through the wake and the board gets pushed into the air in front of you. The tantrum's the opposite, so it's going to feel real weird when you start getting your tantrum comfortable because it's just about as opposite as you can get from that trick. So it looks like you started coasting tall and then sat down and then kind of stood up again and flattened off for a really long time. And then you start squaring up a bit, but two hands are on the handle the whole time. You just start letting go, but now your momentum is so dead that it's going to feel like you get kind of stuck to the wake and get stalled out, um, which means that right here you're gonna feel kind of dull and dead and not like you're exploding off the wake, which is going to encourage you to look kind of to one direction on either side of your shoulders. If we get uncomfortable and we're not sure that we're going to make it out of a trick, we usually spot the water as soon as possible. And by nature, it's kind of over one shoulder. So I can't really tell here, but it looks like you might be kind of hinting over one shoulder because it looks like you might not feel very comfortable upside down here after you slowed down so much. It might feel like your momentum kind of died. So also what's happening is I can see with your arm right here, see how tight the line is? It's not crazy tight, but it's tight enough. And then you're pulling your arm forward in front of your body here. What that's going to do is, like I mentioned before when we were reading through your submission, this is going to pull your body kind of sideways into a 180. And you're doing this because with a back roll, toe side and heel side, if you pull on the rope and increase your line tension, it makes you flip faster. It feels like you're rotating quicker. You also have a tendency to ball up here so that you flip faster, and all of those things are going to encourage you to kind of pull on the rope. That pulling on the rope is going to result in uh, right here where you see there was a tug on the rope and then there's like this little wobble in the line tension. That means you pulled on the rope and now it's slack. Now that the line has a little bit of a droop in it, that slack to it, you're kind of dead in the air and you've already initiated that front side 180, which is going to set you kind of on your butt here at 180. So I don't know if you're trying to just do a one wake version or go wake to wake, but your approach is setting you up for kind of a dull pop at the wake, and then you're leveraging the handle too much in the air, and that's what's spinning you front side. So you'll see that repeated in all of these, and we'll just kind of go through a couple of them. So real tall coast, which I'd rather you coast seated, and then you sit down, and then you flatten up and stand up. That one was a little better, but you still pulled on the handle. Um, Again, it's going to feel kind of dull on the pop, although you are doing a really good job using your legs and really using the wake here. We just need to change your approach and then prevent you from pulling the handle. You've gotten so used to that; it's so ingrained in your muscle memory now. So again, that's why trying 60 of these in a row is going to get you into the habit of spinning front side. Even when we try to break the habit, it'll be tougher. So on this next one, actually, this is a good example because you actually made it wake to wake. So on this one, you should have let go with your backhand already. You could have, came in with a little bit more aggression, and then you want to take your back foot and your back shoulder and line them up when you switch edges to really trip this. You want to line your back shoulder and your back leg and back foot up with your front. So what that means is if I was to take a picture of you at the wake, I shouldn't be able to see your back leg and your back shoulder. You should be lined up like perfectly um, on the wake here, and that will make you trip it really well. And you're just letting go with the handle too late, which means you don't have time to really square up. So when you're flipping like this, you're actually kind of flipping away from the boat, which makes it tight in the beginning and then loose in the end. And because of that flipping direction, because you're rotating around that axis that's kind of skewed, it's going to cause you to run into line tension early on that arm, which flips you, and then lose line tension at the end, which is going to put you in that 180 position. Um, so right here, I can just see too much. The nose of the board should be blocking your back leg just about right here. Um, and then it won't feel like you have to chuck your shoulders behind you as much as you just square up and look up into the sky, and it'll really push you up nice. So that's kind of the key there, and that's why this line wobbles a lot, and then you get pulled sideways. So let's take a look at some drills that are going to help you. Again, we've kind of beat this up a little too much on the problems you've been having. So now that we've diagnosed those, let's talk about the solutions. The solutions here are all in, you've probably seen this before, but they're all in this tripping a tantrum video. I would recommend just start to finish reviewing this because we've ingrained some bad habits and we need to break them. So we need to go back to super basics on this. It's not going to take you a really long time because you're already comfortable upside down and all of that. I would work on the trampoline 180s with your backflip to a 180 to the left and a 180 to the right. Um, but then on the water, I would work on this, and I think it'll come around pretty quick. We just have to reset how you take off the wake. Um, so the key to this is following each step in painstaking detail. So uh, you're gonna you're gonna square up at the wake like Billy here, but look at this. Look how when he's square with the wake, I can't see his back shoulder, I can't see his back leg, I can't see his back foot. That is squared up properly. Your board would have been over here somewhere, the tip of your board when you were taking off, if we were to mirror it for right foot forward instead of left foot forward. So that is your main issue at takeoff. And that's what's causing you to flip away. Like if the nose of the board is here, you're going to be flipping away from the boat really hard. Right now, Billy is going to be flipping directly toward the other wake and not against the rope. He's not going to try and travel further away from the boat, which is going to yank on that arm, which is going to pull him across, pull his arm across his body and put him in a 180 position. Um, it's all because he's squaring upright and he let go. If we kind of take a peek, you can see he already is letting go of his backhand on the handle right here. He's just let go with his fingers here. And look how far away from the wake he is. This is really a one-handed trick. And then it allows you to just have pretty consistent line tension all the way through it. Um, but again, it talks about the back roll differences and whatnot here. But this is a really good video. I'd really recommend this. Um, it'll teach you how to do some backside reentries and get real punchy with this. Just go through each one of these just briefly and have some fun with it. Work on those backside reentries because you'll see here the position that Billy's in when he's taking off on the backside reentry. You'll notice the nose of the board is kind of here instead of yours was over here. So I think that is the main difference. We want to practice this without actually going upside down and without having hard falls, and this is the way to do it. You'll feel way less afraid to try these if you can get these dialed. Once you get these dialed, it feels like you just edge in and do a backside reentry into a backflip, and it's trampoline-esque from there. So this is the big difference. Having the nose of your board when you're popping off the wake is from the boat angle, it's going to look like it's toward your takeoff rather than how you had it toward your landing. And that's what causes the board to kind of trip and really pop off the tail really hard. So this is the key to your success on this, and I would just practice the heck out of these and have fun. Every time you get up on the board, you should be just warming up and practicing some backside reentries. Not only are they fun to do, but they're going to ingrain the right body position and the right edge for your tantrums, and you'll start doing tantrums properly in no time. Um, Hopefully that helps and makes sense to you. Thanks again for submitting the video. I've got really high hopes for your tantrum. I think you're right there. You just got kind of stuck in that rut for a while, and once you get stuck in it, it's really hard to get out of it unless you take a completely different thought process and approach to it. So hopefully that tripping and tantrum video will be the key to that. And feel free to upload another video if you get stuck. Um, or you can reach out to us. We appreciate everything, and we'll see you around the site.